welcome to Please Clap, a podcast about the world and how we got here. Today's episode is very special. We have not one, but two special guests. Can you believe it, folks? And as always, I'm joined by my sweet wife, Nico.
Hey, what's up, guys?
And my good buddy, Rob.
It's me, Chan's good buddy, Rob. I'm joined here in person, in the house. 3 people, 2 mics. Have Andy and Olivia, both of whom are political scientists at Florida State University. And much like myself, can't stress enough how much anything we say is exclusively our opinions and not necessarily that of Florida State University or anybody who works there. And shouldn't be taken seriously because it's all parody. It's all jokes. It's a comedy podcast, and you won't learn anything from it. So say hi, guys.
Hello. Nothing I say matters. Thanks.
Well, no, it matters because it'll bring joy and light to people's lives.
That's right.
Oh, I don't want to.
Well, unless you want to
consequence here.
It's edutainment.
It can also bring pestilence, plague, darkness upon the land if you care for that. And Olivia, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. Joined here with my 2 close friends.
Good.
They're so excited.
Hesitated a little bit. I mean, am I one of your friends? I mean, it's fine if not. It's fine.
Am I supposed to introduce you now as one of my friends? Are we doing that?
I wouldn't mind.
So this is Rob, one of my good friends from Florida State University, whose opinions definitely do not reflect those of Florida State.
Well, they might. It's totally unclear. There's no correlation between my opinions and those of Florida State. Any is purely spurious.
That's what makes it fun.
Yep.
All right, our first and most anticipated and most beloved segment, The Boy Next Door.
What's the boy next door? Come in. Yes, it is that classic Boy Next Door, and what a great theme you just heard. You guys might remember it from all of those texts I sent you like 2 weeks ago, and from listening to it just right now. So this post is from Tressa, classic name. It is titled, LOL. Boy, did I get a good laugh this morning when I heard people are resisting the vaccine because they think the shot contains a microchip. They apparently take issue with the thought that they might be able to have their movements tracked. Check your hand. That phone has a microchip in it, and it is tracking you. And this post, as you might have guessed, has 361 comments associated with it.
No way.
You cannot post about vaccines on Nextdoor and retain any amount of sanity. This one, I'm not sure what Patricia's responding to here, but she says, didn't the Dems board a plane post a picture of their party on board while not wearing masks? Didn't it turn out to be a super spreader event? Weren't members of the VP office in contact with these rogues? Were they vaccinated? Why did so many get COVID? And what exactly is the message the Dems are sending us? Rules for thee, but not for me? And so that was cool, because
Rules
no one
for
seemed
thee,
to be,
but not for me. I like that one.
Classic whataboutism. I love it.
Yeah.
Sue says to that, great response. So thank you, Sue. April says, phone, iPad, computer, GPS. If they want to know where you are, they will know. Lol, no chip necessary. Well, each one of those things is filled with chips. I don't know. You guys aren't vaccinated, right?
I'm alive, so no.
If you guys are vaccinated, I need to have a mask on to keep your shit.
A friend of mine is looking for childcare work, and she found this posting specifically looking for an unvaccinated nanny, as if somehow a vaccinated nanny would be catching. Like, are you going to catch the vaccine?
No,
what's the logic?
So
there?
they think that when you get the vaccine, since it has pieces of the virus, which is only true for, I think, the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, not the Moderna and that's like almost every single vaccine has pieces of the virus in it. But they think that you're going to start shedding your viral load. So you're just like virus is just blasting out of your pores if you've been vaccinated.
Like the bubonic plague, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like pus. It's just like
You exude miasma when you get vaccinated.
They believe in the viral load, but only after vaccination.
Yes.
Oh, that
yes,
logical.
Now, if this was a deep state CDC plot to get anti-vaxxers to start wearing masks,
which it is,
which I mean, I would hope it is. I would hope they're competent enough to do that. Great job on them, honestly, because now some of the anti-vaxxers have started wearing masks around vaccinated people. So really well done there to whoever came up with it. Saving lives.
Yeah, the only way to get people to do what you want is to out Pizza the Hut, so to speak. Meaning come up with some
Pizza the Hut. Ooh.
You come up with some intense scheme and they're more likely to buy it.
Now, I thought that kids weren't really affected by COVID, right? Isn't that their what they've been saying? They're like, it doesn't matter if my little kid gets it because they're going to be fine.
Well, yeah, but that's just like regular
people.
COVID.
I mean,
if they get vaccine COVID, your fucking kid's
it's
dead.
super
Your kid
COVID.
is fucked, dude. Yeah.
Damn.
Well, some people think that it's I know someone personally that thinks that the vaccine is going to make your, like, because we've got these microchips and they keep looking at the Pfizer website and they're like, it's not FDA approved and it has nanochips, and I'm like, where are you guys seeing
nanochips?
Yeah,
That sounds pretty badass.
and
I mean, that's
that
just
apparently our heads are going to explode is another one that I've
they'll,
heard.
like,
and it's a
press
really
the
big
button.
TikTok thing, because apparently there's
man.
this
Well,
yeah, it's like a really big TikTok thing
that's
where
probably
it's like,
true then.
yeah, definitely true.
Well,
That's where I get
also
all
what
my news.
happens is people who don't know how to read medical journal articles just see the prefix nano
Right, yeah.
and don't understand that it's a unit of size.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so they read the word nano and then they're like, oh, I know that. That's from like my computer, right?
that's from iRobot. I've seen that Will Smith joint. What's
They're
our next?
trying to put a fucking iPod in my brain.
What's our next story here?
That would be amazing. Can you imagine?
Well, that'd be pretty sick. This is really the big. This post has taken
No,
up
thank
most
you.
of the kook energy on next story. So I just want to close with one final post from Bryce here. What is this, Facebook now? Totalitarianism taking root with some. I agree, Bryce. I agree. And that was The Boy Next Door. Tune into the bonus feed if you want me to read all 361 replies in a monotone voice.
That's a Patreon special.
Yeah.
So
it's a
please ask us for
stretch
that.
goal when we get to 5,000 a month.
Yeah. Or when someone buys me Ableton Live Standard Edition. You can get it personally addressed. I'll produce it real nice. Me reading
We need to set
all
up
of
a
those posts
GoFundMe.
aloud.
That's right. Fantastic segment. Next up, we've got a real special guest special here.
Oh wow! Look, it's a seagull. Oh man, Florida's a beautiful place. I just wish I didn't have these Sunshine State blues. But state government fucking sucks.
So what do we got?
Well, so recently, and I've been wanting to talk about this on the show for a while, the governor and the state legislature have passed a series of what they deem intellectual diversity or viewpoint diversity initiatives in the name of free speech on campus, because nothing gets the right wing in this country more upset than what they imagine is happening on college campuses. And in this case, what they imagine happening on college campuses is, as you've probably guessed, Marxist liberals are teaching your kids that the Nazis were actually the right wing. They're teaching your kids that America used to be racist and is also still racist in many ways, filling their heads with unbelievable lies that are rooted in Mao-style disinformation. And that must be stopped. And the way to do this is by encouraging free speech. And the way to encourage free speech is to make faculty members' jobs more precarious, if they upset a little snowflake who doesn't like to think that maybe his great grandpa owning slaves was bad.
Don't make them feel bad, okay?
No,
you can't do that.
It's not their fault.
It's not their fault. Jeez. Gosh darn it.
So Olivia, I believe you've read this bill. So
yes, I have.
You've done. We did say we weren't going to do research on the show anymore, but since you're here, I guess we'll coast off of your wonderful research. So can you tell us a little bit about what this bill actually does?
Sure. And I want to say I 100% read it only because I was going to be on this podcast and not for any other purpose.
Certainly not anything like fear for your career.
Of course not. So I believe it is House Bill 233, and it dictates that not only should schools, starting about roughly next year, begin to hold annual ideological examinations, surveys, if you will, distributed widely to both students and faculty. And that research will be compiled so that the Florida state government may deem what schools are worthy of funding in the future. Not only that, it also says that students in class, if they feel like they're not able to fully express their views for whatever reason that may be, for
example, if they're a Nazi and they feel unwelcome saying that they think it's good to be a Nazi, then if they don't feel comfortable saying their views, they can, or if they believe that their professor is defaming someone or something, they can, without consent of the other party, record and then use that recording for a lawsuit. And to be clear about the surveys, what these surveys are is the state is mandating that these surveys be distributed to students and employees on, is it just colleges or is it colleges and lower levels, like
it is all
schools?
Public universities as far as I understand it. I'm sure they want to do more than that, but
I mean, I hadn't heard of them doing it in elementary.
Yeah.
My mom would have said something as a teacher herself.
It's so far not been extended to K through 12. It wouldn't surprise me if that was happening long term. But like rhetorically, within a lot of super conservative environments, it's about like they just don't want to pay for public university education. So
wow,
that is like somewhat more federally contentious. Like they don't want to pay for K through 12 either. But that's like, you can't say that part out loud yet.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so sorry.
No.
Oh, so they're now distributing these surveys, and the surveys are, it's not entirely clear what's going to be on them, but they're asking, do you feel that your viewpoints are well represented on campus? Do you feel that there is a wide range of viewpoints from your teachers? And so what they're obviously expecting to do with this is to say, well, look, all of these students are complaining that all of their professors are liberal, because it's probably going to be mostly right-wing students who fill these out. I guarantee you they are not going to say, wow, none of these campuses have any Leninists on the faculty. We really need to get some more Leninists in there. It is only going to go one way. Just like all of these fucking things. But universities are just kind of going along with it, from what I can tell. There's been some fuss at the faculty grad student level, but I am not aware of any fuss being made by like administrators at the school. And if you guys know differently, please say so.
I will say, as of right now, it is unfunded. So they're administering this survey because they're required to, not because someone gave them money to do it, because Florida doesn't like to fund things. And the second thing is that because of the way that the law is written, we don't know fully how long the survey is going to be, or if people are going to be required to fill it out yet. And we don't know the exact specific questions, but I'm sure in the coming months that those will be released to the public and will be made a mockery of, as we would love to.
Oh yeah. You can bet your ass that we're going to be reading this thing on the if Rob can get his grubby little hands on one.
Yeah. I'm good at getting my little hands round place. Anyway, so like the broader context of this is like this whole push against critical race theory, which is in the conservative imagination, just like teaching history.
Yeah.
That isn't like North Korea style hagiography of the founding is like that's critical race theory now, and we can't have that. Critical race theory is communism, it's socialism, it's
division. We're dividing us.
right. It's anything polarizing, and this is just part of the big push to like villainize these like fairly conservative institute. Like public college is not a communist environment by and large. It is a very liberal in the like classic sense of the word environment. And if there's indoctrination happening, it is, to the center right. And it's not, I don't think explicit, but just, if you're in an economics department, what you're getting taught is free market economics. If you're getting taught at Florida State that nobody takes Keynes seriously. We all love like Murray Rothbard and Friedrich Hayek, and that's the kind of indoctrination that you're getting. Not Mao was right, or you should have to watch gay porn. Like you're.
I mean, you don't have to, but it is
required reading.
It's It's not required. It's recommended.
I mean, now it's pretty soon they're going to make you just start reading the transcripts, if nothing else. But it's like anti-indoctrination. I was listening to this thing about Bill Cooper. He's like, oh, the New World Order is going to take over, and one of the things that he was afraid of is your kid is going to be made by the state to watch gay porn in elementary school. For some reason, unclear, kind of like why the New World Order wants that. Like
we have to watch those birth videos in middle school or whatever.
Right.
That was
I don't remember.
That's some indoctrination. Yeah. That's some straight indoctrination.
Yeah. I feel like we've gotten kind of off the mark here, and I feel like that was mostly my fault.
But what's interesting to me about hearing like this commentary of like university education is not political indoctrination. Like, yes, the fuck it is. If you're looking relative to what conservatives actually believe and what conservatives culturally actually experience, university education is very, very radical. So relative to other industrialized democracies, no, not at all. Relative to the experiences most people are having in much of the world, yes, absolutely. So like when I went to college, I had not really interacted with people who were not super conservative. So being presented with the information that, well, yes, some people actually like thought that communism was correct. That actually was a radicalizing experience for me relative to what I previously believed. So I always think it's interesting when leftists kind of talk about these things, because I always hear like the jokes that people are saying about like, yeah, there are communists in universities. And I'm like, yeah, like I went to universities and like there were people who were still allowed to be there if they were communists. And relative to my prior cultural experiences, that was like extreme and shocking. So it's interesting that we seem to have these kind of two cultural paradigms of what extremism is. And we're not realizing that like we can just say things that we think are very basic, and to the other group within the culture, that itself is very extreme.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, my experience was largely like coming in and being very uninformed, but relatively left-leaning to begin with, and having been around a bunch of liberals my whole life, not around a bunch of conservatives. And so what I saw was like people who came in feeling kind of radical, and I'm probably not all that actually radical in retrospect, but people who came in as activists and now they work for the Democratic Party and like
wow,
think that
you
the
had to go
Democratic
there,
Party.
huh?
Ooh,
Yeah.
getting called out.
Huh.
Well, but no,
out.
Nicole,
Had
I'm
to go
talking about
there.
the people who worked for the Democratic Party and liked
hijo
it,
de
not
puta.
the.
Eso es lo que tú eres, ¿ok?
Oh,
No
get
empieces
him.
conmigo.
not you,
Ahora
Nicole.
me vas a sacar. Me sacaste la diabla. Me sacaste la diabla.
Oh, you
No, I'm
fucked up,
talking about,
Rob.
and Chan, feel free to bleep this name. I'm thinking very much of and bleep. Yep. fucking
Yes.
fake
Well,
poser.
It is true what you say.
But
I mean,
yeah,
like,
I'm not
go
bleeping
ahead.
that.
Go ahead, Nicole. That's fine. I don't give a shit. I don't like him.
yes, you need to bleep that out. But no, I mean, it is true. I mean, going from what I felt was from the activist perspective, and then going to that ungodly place that I worked at for years, it is a huge,
There's a big difference there.
yeah, it's big.
I mean, we saw, you just talked about, Rob, we know plenty of people who were, like, we knew through, like, Bernie group and stuff like that are just like, ooh, y'all went some other way with all this. And that's true for a lot of people, as they go out into the world and they're like, I have to have a job and I can't I have to like fit in basically.
Yeah.
And I can either be center, like liberal, or I can be a right-wing grifter. That's pretty much it. Like, unless you want to work for like a nonprofit, but even still, it's like,
Yeah. Well, there's still plenty of people that are like center mid. I'm sorry, Rob, you go first.
Oh no, I was just going to say I really appreciate. I really appreciated Andy's perspective on that. I could tell Andy is squirming in his seat to expand on it.
Yeah,
Well,
definitely.
I just like okay, so if you want to have a job, like what's the option? Would you say liberal centrist or like right wing grifter? Like, I mean, those are the options if you're a white cis person.
I feel like that's the option for a lot of other folks too, because I had to make that decision myself. When I worked for the party, because when I got out of college, I come from low income Puerto Rico, and I thought, oh well, okay, I'm gonna make a change. But then when you see the meat getting made, it's just disgusting and horrific and
like I said, or you can go the.
But you're right. Yeah, you're right.
The less, I guess, profitable and harder route of working with like groups and nonprofits
absolutely.
and stuff like that. It's possible, but
Absolutely.
And I think that sometimes too, there's like, I know especially a lot of like trans adults who are just like, oh yeah, like no matter what environment I'm going to be in, I'm not going to be perceived accurately. And so the only real option socially tends to be these like, frankly, like relatively extreme leftist environments. And it's because everybody in that environment is like pretty low income, but like you have this social norm of we're going to mutually rely on each other when we can. And so it's interesting because it seems like different sectors of the population tend to get pushed into these different political niches just because the existing two-party structure forces that almost. But point taken, interesting.
I think on a related note, the political science track that a lot of people go into as activists, if they like come in to college and they're like, oh, I want to do something, I think it's very common for them to go into political science, and then so much of what you learn in a political science undergrad course is about all of the limitations that exist in the system, about all of the checks and balances that are spoken with varying degrees of religiosity and awe, ranging from people being like, oh, this sucks, but a lot of people saying, wow, James Madison was truly the greatest visionary. And so you kind of like see all of these things that frustrate you when you start, and then by the time you get out, like, well, this is the way things are, and we got to work within that. We got to work within that system. I think there's a kind of a narrowing of possibility that can happen depending on your experience and your outlook when you get in there.
So Olivia probably has more to add to this, but something that I think is really interesting about bans on CRT are, like, if you know what CRT is, it's really basic information. And I think, like, it kind of surprises me that this is being done under the guise of intellectual diversity, because it's like, well, if you're implementing no CRT, you can't actually even describe what the white supremacists believe.
Right.
And so what functionally happens, and I think probably Olivia has more thoughts on this, is that, like, you really can't even cite women as easily if CRT is banned, because, like, obviously sexism is a huge problem, and every woman who's in political science is experiencing it. Ergo, I expect it's probably going to show up in every woman's writing, at least to some extent. And I think the same is probably true for people of color, and CRT, like, functionally bans what you're even able to assign.
Yeah. So I just had a lecture talking to the undergraduates about discriminatory policies in the United States over time. And that lecture in itself, I had assigned them a couple readings by women, and our textbook overall is written by both a man and a woman. But I never explicitly told them that we're doing critical race theory. I explained to them that we're talking about these policies that happened in the United States that resulted in atrocities towards other people. And so there's a way to go about it that doesn't necessarily signal that you're doing critical race theory. But beyond that, I think the students, if they're open to these ideas and they're open to learning about history for the most part, they're not gonna, necessarily report me to and send a lawsuit my way for learning about, all of the crimes and
real things that happened.
Yeah.
Real things that happened. And I was able to have them read things like what makes women decide to run for office. And the title is The Sense of a Woman. And I was able to have them read things about taxing the poor. And as long as I didn't mention CRT, the majority of them are fine with it. As in terms of, like, the feedback I've been getting, I have not had a lawsuit at my door. And so I am curious to see how far people can take the ideas that critical race theory is really about, and teach them without necessarily signaling anything in particular.
Do you think?
Sorry.
No, I was just gonna ask. Do you think that's why they're doing this whole survey thing? Is they're trying to, like, get people in a different way because they can't get them purely through, like, listening to them and reporting them like that?
Yeah. Well, it's kind of twofold there. So part of it is because Florida has an issue with funding stuff and doesn't necessarily want to fund the college that I went to, which has, blatantly more liberal views, and they've been trying to shut down my college for years.
Olivia went to New College.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But two is that there are some people in even Florida State who have a lot of money, who have personal family lawyers, who are feeling that their voice is not able to be heard, even though we didn't ask for them in class. Like, they feel like their views are being stunted. And so it's a way for Florida to allow these people to have some way of somehow legally being able to hold us accountable, professors accountable, for our views that we apparently seem to be espousing to them, even though the majority of the time it's just history. And so the result would be going through an entire lawsuit, and eventually would be saying, these are the things that you cannot teach because of this lawsuit. So it's a stepping stone legislation for future lawsuits and restrictions of speech.
Jesus Christ.
And Olivia may have more to add on this, because I know you're teaching different classes, but, like, my students want this information. I actually like have had issues where every semester I've had to explicitly make some statement that was like, I am not an expert on Israeli and Palestinian politics. My opinion should not be taken that seriously, because like students are just so hungry to actually have these conversations and understand. But there are limits to what I want to actually share in class, not necessarily even constrained by my knowledge, but just like, okay, but like, what if I do say something that is interpreted poorly? Or like, also, what if I'm wrong? Who else is going to be held responsible for the mistake that I am making?
Right.
So, but like, it doesn't seem like it's really because students don't want to know, but.
Yeah, so I'm teaching a very basic intro course that everyone's required to take now. And so all of the feedback that I've gotten is saying that like, wow, your lectures are really, really in depth. I love hearing about about these court cases and stuff that we just kind of gloss over in class. I like learning about the history of these laws, who made them, etc. Essentially, it enabling me to continue to go on tangents about stuff that like, takes up time during class. But when I was talking about their discriminatory policies, I presented it in a way that would not be off-putting, because I started off with talking about anti-Catholicism in the United States. And so once you start with something that like, okay, I didn't know all of this before. I didn't know that one of the largest mass lynchings in the United States was of Italian immigrants. I didn't know these things. And then they start going, okay, and then we get into people of color, women, LGBTQ legislation. And they go at the end of it, wow, I didn't know all of this before. And then at the end, they feel satisfied because they got a whole lot of in-depth knowledge that they wouldn't before. And I tell them, for the most part, I use Pearson, who is one of the big overlords of educational textbooks.
Right.
I use Mr. Pearson's slides a lot. But when I go into my own stuff, I say, this is all stuff that I have found and researched fully in depth. But if you want to learn more, because I can't go fully in depth to all of it, do your own research. And that's kind of okay, we have a jumping off point of what I can go and research, what I can go and look up.
Olivia says to her students, all right, go to 4chan.org/poll and just start asking some questions if you want to learn more about what I'm teaching you.
Yep. Yep. I send them right over to 4chan, right over to Rob's 4chan page.
Oh, my 4chan? Okay, well, clearly you haven't spent enough time on 4chan, Olivia.
Olivia, I'm curious, like, how you talk about this kind of thing. I apologize if this is not interesting to your podcast, but I'm interested in Olivia's teaching now.
Go for it.
Yeah, definitely.
So I sometimes will talk about Catholicism, and students are just like, yeah, because like Irish Catholics got discriminated against. And I'm always like, yeah, that's correct. So did many other Catholics, predominantly Latino Catholics. So isn't that bad also? And then like also being able to explain to students, yes, and Irish people experience that discrimination specifically because they were not legally categorized as the same as other white people. And now they are. So you're acknowledging that this categorization is pertinent.
Right.
So like one thing that's been really helpful is sort of identifying, hey, conservatives are identifying this like perceived racial injustice against white people. Let's go talk about that, because virtually always it's actually rooted in that group not really being seen as fully white. So that's kind of like a workaround where you're like, conservatives, I see and affirm your opinion. Here's why. It's just racism.
Yeah.
Whoa, yeah.
Has that worked for you too, Olivia?
I've flat out told them about the issues with expanding the white majority, and that throughout time, in order for white males to stay in power, they had to decide at one point that like, okay, our population is getting big enough to where we're going to be outnumbered. We have to expand voting rights to women, which if you think they were expanding voting rights to women just because women wanted it, nah. They knew what population stuff was coming up, and they knew that if they didn't let women into the circle, that they were going to get their butts kicked.
Acemoglu and Robinson, 2004.
Oh wow.
Got him.
There's a paper talking about
We'll put it
how
in the show notes.
industrialized democracies strategically extend who is able to vote contingent upon the size of the coalition that they expect is necessary to maintain power. But there's a lot of work on like virtually always white supremacist constructs only extend rights when doing so will allow them to maintain power.
Yes. And so even now we see the issue of a lot of people who were not white passing 10 years ago are now white passing. And that idea that people are more becoming more racially ambiguous in terms of like pop culture and things like that. Mm-hmm. Part of that is enabling white people to stay in power in whatever way that they are able to. And they're going to run out of time at some point. But
when you said expanding the white majority, were you talking about like how shitty survey measures are? Is that what you were referring to? Because if so, like people should hear more about that.
I was purely talking about social, but you can also go into the discussion about the whole issue with surveys as well. I had read for the research about discriminatory policies a lot of information about how surveys and the census was done back in the 1910 census, and how the words that they used and the categories that they used to describe people were not really cool at all, actually. And there were about 3 total categories of people back then for that census. And then, of course, they used those censuses to enforce certain immigration quotas. And so, it's a whole can of worms there. Yeah, but we can if you want.
Well, it's so there's some work recently looking at like most people from the Middle East are categorized as white on surveys. A lot of Latinos who are in practice not experiencing white privilege are categorized as white on surveys. And so there's and I thought you were the one who told me about this. I may be mistaken, but like there's some notion that this has happened because in part like this allows the white category on surveys to appear artificially large, and this impacts partitioning of resources and things like that.
Wow. I think you make a really good point. I'm sorry, Rob. I'm just gonna
go ahead.
No, I think he makes a really good point. Andy makes a really good point, because like I'm noticing that with the Cuban vote, especially because now we talk about white passing Latinos, and we are now talking about, you know, Latinos used to just be, you were Latino, that was it, you know. But now it's like we've categorized it, and now we're talking about white passing Latinos, and I see the growth. It's now like making sense to me. You're like piecing links in my brain right now of just like I see that, and it's kind of crazy because just a couple years ago that wasn't the case, but now it's just crazy because just a couple years ago I wouldn't have heard any of these conversations, and now thinking about it, it's like holy shit, this is all a part of the big plan, the big cabal. But it's just crazy to
Nicole
me.
is joking when she says cabal.
No, I know, I'm sorry.
Nicole's not a Q guy, don't worry.
No, I'm just kidding. But like, you know,
just for a little bit in 2017, but
yeah.
we can gloss
who
over.
wasn't?
Come on, guys, stop. Come on.
Well, I've been thinking about that a lot recently, because like for a long time we were trying to categorize like basically your proximity to whiteness,
right, not
like your identity.
Wow.
And it seems like in the past like 10 years particularly, like it's almost like white people are now aware that like Latinos are not like we're not a monolith, right? Like, but like it's almost like white people tend to have more of an idea of like, oh, this is what Latinos tend to look like,
right?
Like, whereas that wasn't necessarily a category that existed. Like,
right.
I was trying to explain this to somebody recently where I was like, I like did not know for a long time that Latinos weren't white, because like,
right,
I just didn't have a box for what that. Sorry,
That's okay.
Right.
I understand.
No, absolutely.
And so like that's interesting to observe from like one side, and then it's interesting because I know people too who are, as they get older and there's more like awareness that Latinos just exist, like they are being perceived as more racially ambiguous than they were earlier in their life because people have this box now that they might be putting them into.
Yeah, absolutely.
You probably have much more nuanced things to say about that.
Yeah, I think thinking about it now, because man, I miss school. I want to go back to school now.
Look, we're giving the people too much. We gotta put this behind a paywall or something.
No, it's so interesting to think about that because you don't think about that often until these conversations start, and then you start to realize, like, okay, where am I in this spectrum? Where do I land? You know, because in the census, I still have to, because I have to recognize that I'm caramel colored, but I'm still white passing to some people. So I have to, be very cognizant of that. And
until Rob pisses her off, and then
no empiece.
Well, also to some people, that is like, it's so interesting how racialization is not consistent, and it depends on who you're interacting with sometimes.
Wow, right.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Wow. You guys make me miss school. Wow.
It's okay. We can.
I love what you guys are doing. I think it's awesome. Yeah. And I would love to talk for 30 more hours.
Yeah. If you guys could maybe stop making my content look like my content, like what I say, look very like low effort, kind of like just mostly making jokes that are vaguely political.
Yeah, what's the next goofy segment you got?
Just kind of like yeah.
No.
That was really great, guys.
Yeah, this has been a discourse that I've been having to have a lot of over the past like 2 years. And it's also been, so my husband has, he is question mark, but like, some of his family is Syrian, some of his family is Puerto Rican, and we went and like we saw In the Heights recently, and he just was like, I'm not saying that like I think I looked like anybody in there, but like it felt like somebody in that could have been my cousin, and that's not usually like a way I see in terms of like perceiving my like similarity physically to others. And he's like, he's very pale and like is usually interpreted as a white guy, and like it was kind of surprising to recognize like even somebody who my brain is categorizing or like initially categorized as white is like, oh wow, I feel seen by this like huge box now existing.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
We know that white people profiting off of stealing looks specifically in people of color's culture is a bad thing, but it has the unintended consequence of, for young people, expanding that view of what counts as white passing. And so by a result, the younger people have a much different view of that than we do even.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, definitely.
So do you think that younger people are perceiving more people as white?
Yeah.
Oh, wow, that's interesting.
Well, if we think about like the number of people that I've seen on TikTok who are TikTok famous, who have ethnic ambiguity is incredibly high. Like, regardless of what their name even is, like a lot of people look, a lot of white people are now looking both dark-skinned plus Latino plus a little bit of Asian, and like just that level of, okay, we're using a lot of these different looks to express ourselves.
True.
Oh, so you mean in terms of like what kinds of cultural expression are interpreted as white?
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So I'm super happy with the way that conversation, because I was expecting to talk about a fairly base, like, let's all shit on Ron DeSantis, which is very easy to do, but not that interesting to listen to. So thank you very much for making a more valuable discussion that is broader than just here's a shitty thing happening in Florida.
We're gonna start our own podcast.
Well, that's probably not. I mean,
I'm gonna listen to
it'll
it.
be
I have to
half
listen
of
to
this
it.
and
don't.
half
We'll
Olivia
cut
telling me
that.
how
We'll
to
cut.
listen.
We'll cut that, Chan. We'll cut that,
Yeah,
Chan.
we'll
You can
bleep that. I'll just bleep it out.
We'll bleep it. We'll bleep it. But I did want to say one more note about this action specifically. I think you also have to understand this as part of like Ron DeSantis positioning himself as a culture warrior,
Right.
and
That's
gaining
true.
a national. I mean, and to be clear, I think any Republican governor right now would probably be doing that. I don't want to make it seem like the problem is Ron DeSantis, because the problem is, in one sense, Florida's government. In a much broader sense, is kind of the state
Right.
of the right in this country right now.
That's true.
But also, Ron DeSantis very much seems like he's gearing up to run for president.
Yes,
at
that's
some
exactly
point
what I was
in the
gonna say
next
right now.
8 years.
That's
And-
exactly what I was gonna say.
and I think this and the anti-protest bills that are billed as pro-protest bills, I think
Are
this
there
is
new
all part of
ones?
the... No, this is still HB1, but I think it's gone into effect now and has passed now.
Oh wait, so we can just kill protesters now?
Yeah.
Yeah, but don't worry. He said that the law doesn't really apply to all of
Right-wingers.
the Cuban expats that were blocking
That's
freeways. You can't run over
right.
them. You can only run over leftists.
Oh, so I should still be worried.
Yeah,
Great.
right,
Yes.
right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
I guess
Yeah.
if there was like one particular guy that you didn't like, but your politics happened to align, you could probably get away with hitting them specifically with the car. So it might still play out in your
Just
favor.
clipping them.
But you can't just plow into a Proud Boys march, because that's not fair. That's not
No.
fair. So, and I think it is important to like, there are myriad structural factors that contribute to bills like this getting passed, but also important to understand this is a cynical play by Ron DeSantis to get good boy brownie points in the right-wing media so that he can take the Trump mantle, he hopes.
Also, this is not like strictly relevant, but I'm working on this research project right now where it's interviewing emergency workers in Tallahassee. So, first of all, I think like it's an interesting idea about CRT that like it's only white people who dislike Black Lives Matter and Black Lives Matter messaging. Like, that's not fucking true. And it's been really surprising, like, looking at emergency workers, how often there are, like, pretty strong critiques of those kinds of protests from people who I would maybe be biased to think, like, wouldn't have those kinds of objections. So, like, I think we're sort of saying, oh, this is driven 100% by, like, white nationalism. But, like, there's a whole lot of conservatism that's not strictly white nationalist. There are a lot of anti-LGBTQ things that are very strongly rooted in multiple cultural traditions in the U.S. There are like anti-Islamic ideals that are rooted in multiple like different cultural Christian traditions in the U.S. So I like, it's also worth saying that our bias is sort of to go, this is something that is by and exclusively benefits white nationalists. But there are a lot of conservative groups outside of just those like cartoonishly racist white nationalists who do stand to benefit from things like this because it affects more than just CRT.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now it is time for everyone's second favorite segment, Fact or Fiction.
Uh-oh. Oh, no. Oh, yeah. It's time to separate fact from fiction. Whew.
So the rules of this game are you just tell me whether you think this story that I read to you is a real story or is it fake news.
Are we playing?
Yes.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Everyone's playing. Now if you've seen this article or you know don't tell everyone like, oh, I saw this is it's fake, whatever. Just if you don't know, then you can work it out. Okay, here is the first story. China threatens to nuke Japan if country intervenes in Taiwan conflict. Is this fact or fiction?
I'm gonna say fiction because it's just I can't handle another just potential.
Okay. They're not gonna.
No one's
nuking Japan.
I'm gonna say this is fake, just for my own sanity.
Andy, what do you think?
I'm gonna say it's real.
I'm also gonna say it's real.
Shit.
It is real.
Well, they're not gonna do it.
Okay, Japan is a U.S. ally. China is highly invested in maintaining control of Taiwan. There are trade reasons too. It would establish a bad precedent. But mostly, Japan is a U.S. ally. A fucking course they would nuke Japan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I almost see it as like, hey, watch out, U.S. Don't get involved, or else. Yeah. So unfortunately,
or else we'll end the world.
Jesus Christ.
And the second article I have here is that the Olympic Village is using cardboard beds in order to in a sort of anti-sex, I guess, method of preventing all these horny Olympians from banging it out. The bed frames are made with cardboard. Is this fact or fiction?
I think this is also real.
I'm also gonna say real.
I will say fact as well.
I know the answer to this one.
Okay. So
we
this
all
has
knew the
been
answer to that one, Chan.
This has been debunked. It's half real. It is true. It is true that the bed frames are made out of cardboard, but there's been a lot of, I guess, like viral videos on TikTok and stuff
of Olympians having sex on them.
Yes,
they're like jumping on the bed.
No, yeah, they're like jumping on the bed, being like, no, we can definitely fuck on this. That's like what they're.
And Olympians are famously very out of shape, not very strong. So if they didn't have a nice cozy bed, they would not be able to have sex with each other.
They make them out to be like band kids, and I was a band kid.
Well, they do. It is true. It is fact that they do have a lot of sex at the Olympics, which shit. If I was they're all hot.
Do you mean if you weren't married, Chan?
Yes,
or should I say chum?
Yes, of course. But yeah, so that's not true. They're still gonna fuck. But Japan also said that because they give out thousands of condoms at every Olympic Games, because they know it's gonna happen. But apparently, and this is real, Japan said that they were souvenirs to take home. Not to actually use them.
That is
it's the most Japanese thing I've ever heard.
Right?
It's like, well, we can't let them create a new STD, so
oh my God,
we'll just say they're souvenirs. Yeah.
It would be unstoppable.
Can you imagine the shame the Japanese government would feel if the Olympics were responsible for some super STD?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
The Olympian.
And they would take it back to every other country, you know what I mean? Like it's oh my God.
We should stop doing the Olympics. We continue our stance on this podcast as being viciously anti-Olympic.
For real?
Oh yeah.
Oh,
hate them. They destroy cities. They build these fucking stadiums that fall apart. They clear out the poor housing and then don't build any replacement housing, and then they just fuck up the infrastructure for the city, create a bunch of homelessness, and then they just have a dilapidated, useless piece of shit exercise facility that they can't afford to maintain in its place.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
I was against the Olympics because I think that they concentrate power in sports too much.
I also
More reasons to hate them.
I also agree with you. There are
That's also a very good point.
myriad reasons to hate them.
Most sporting foundations are very problematic, including FIFA.
Terrible.
Obviously,
I would
the
say
NFL.
probably every single one of them.
CRT. What's or not CRT? What's the other one? The CTR. The concussion thing.
Yeah. Is that CTR?
So
It might all.
isn't professional sports? It's just like modern gladiator shit.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I
Okay.
think that's.
And then they're like, oh no,
the
but they don't
vibe.
get injured, except they do get injured. It's just is over a period of years and years of rapidly degrading mental health and chronic health problems instead of getting.
Gotta get that
Sliced.
dub though.
If
Yeah.
you go to enough football games, eventually you see someone's leg facing the wrong way. So like,
Oh yeah.
Right.
Google hockey accident.
no.
Oh my gosh.
On Live Leak. Yeah.
Wish I hadn't seen that when I was like 12. Awesome.
Oh my god.
Nico, you
Yeah,
have
fuck the
some
Olympics.
articles for us, right?
I have articles for you guys.
Yeah, you have some interesting
Oh,
news for us.
I
right?
don't know. This has been a pretty
News.
fun episode so far. So
Believe in yourself.
I do. I'm going to do that right now. So a man in Texas told someone he matched with on Bumble that he attended the U.S. Capitol riot where the FBI
Fuck yeah.
says he attacked police with a metal whip. And they turned him in.
Critical support.
Hell
well,
yeah.
critical support for him. Critical.
I
Critical
mean,
support.
I know this
snitching's
one.
never good, but if he was at the
If he's an
the ri-
insurrectionist, I think we'll make a...
yeah,
Critical support for both of them.
right.
And he is at least the second accused rioter to be arrested due in part to online dating. So...
Yeah.
Wow.
If you're gonna do terrorism stuff, don't
Right.
use apps. You're done with apps. You're not using apps anymore. Sorry.
No, just get the Freedom Phone.
Yeah.
Get the Freedom Phone, put your information, give them
Untraceable.
give them their
Yeah.
credit card information, and
Oh yeah, I
Just
forgot
get
you had to make
Imagine.
purchases.
Just like you're just trying to find a date after a pandemic, and this motherfucker's like, "You want to hear about my terrorism, baby?"
Yeah, he's like, oh, I really hate the cops. And you're like, oh, fuck yeah, cool, me too. There's, yeah, I was at the Capitol. I beat one with a bullwhip. Ah, damn it.
Not
Wait, did
quite.
somebody really beat a cop with a bullwhip at the Capitol?
it was this dude right here,
Well,
if I'm not mistaken.
It said he had a metal whip. What did it?
Yes.
Metal whip?
So it looks like,
Like a sword?
according to a July 21st criminal complaint, the Federal Bureau of Investigation received a tip on January 9th from a person who had chatted on Bumble with Andrew Quentin Take. Okay. In an exchange, Take described being pepper sprayed. I was the very first person to be sprayed that day, all while just standing there. But the federal authorities accuse him of doing a lot more than that. In the complaint, an FBI agent accuses him of assaulting a police and storming the U.S. Capitol building. It appears that they used a metal whip and a pepper spray to attack law enforcement officers. So I've never
Nice.
seen a metal whip before.
I have no idea what that means.
Yeah,
a
it's
metal
it's
whip.
a bendy. It's a
Oh.
bendy spear.
It's a bendy spear?
No, I'm just,
Oh my gosh. I was
Some
like,
of them
what the
are
hell?
made with like metal fibers to keep them strong, like so they crack
Really?
because they're. I think. Oh, I knew somebody who had a whip that had gunpowder in it somehow, but I don't really.
Oh my
Wow.
Oh man, she was so fucking cool. We would just like be in a random place outside, and she would just be like, "Anybody want to hear my whip crack?" And I thought that was like a euphemism, and like no, she really had this bullwhip. It was amazing, but
I think it breaks the sound barrier. The tip does, right? When it
Yeah,
unfurls, and that's
it-
what makes the crack.
just the tip.
yeah.
Yeah, just...
Wow.
So I'm looking at pictures of metal whips, and all I'm seeing is some real fucking mall ninja shit. So...
Oh,
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah.
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 That seems like
makes sense
some,
that metal whip
LARPer.
would be... Yeah.
they look just like what I sell on the dark web.
Yeah. There's something very funny about being that guy and then using Bumble as your dating app of choice.
I know.
I don't know. That seems like more of a Tinder thing to me.
Right.
If you're gonna
You know what?
like,
Or
who's like, well,
Farmers
I really,
Only or something.
I really
Farmers
respect
Only.
women, and I want them to reach out to me first, so they don't feel they're not made to feel uncomfortable. But also, I did storm into the Capitol building at the beginning of the year.
How do you start that conversation? Hey, my name's Mike. What's up?
My name's Mike. I'm a patriot.
What'd you do today?
I'm a patriot.
Yeah, I'm a patriot, yeah.
Non-vaccinated.
Yeah.
So the next one is from our all-time favorite news
Newsmax?
conglomerate, Fox News.
The Daily Wire? Oh, damn.
No, it's just Michigan Catholic school argues in mask mandates violates religious liberty by hiding God's image.
That's true. That's
Holy
true.
fuck.
Hiding God's
That's-
image.
Hiding God's
There's a lot of
that's why-
ideology going on there.
Right.
That's why I don't wear a hat.
Before diving
Or
into
clothes.
the article, like, what do you guys like? Is it the face? Like, is my face like also like, you know how in the Bible they say that something along the lines of like your God's image or whatever? Is this one
I
of
mean,
those-
that's what they're going for. Yeah. I mean, it's a bunch of BS. They're really.
So, there are specifically Catholic orders that include some kind of face covering in like the uniform. A big part of like the doctrine of how those are used is that like it does have to be the person's free choice to do it. So like within Catholicism, there is a lot of doctrinal support for different kinds of like, I guess I'll say like modesty garments, maybe.
Right.
But like it is very explicit about like you are choosing to cover God's creation in order to humble yourself, and that free choice is an important part of it. So I could see the Catholic Church like objecting to mask mandates on the choice thing, which is ironic. But like I can't see that being legally tractable, so I'm gonna say fact.
Oh, we haven't been.
Oh, it
This
is
is all
fact.
fact. We just didn't put a pin in fact from fake. Shit.
I'm sorry. Yeah, we
Yeah.
should have told you that. I apologize.
Damn.
No, you were
No,
right.
you were
But
right, no.
So.
Oh no, that was on us. That was on
Okay.
us. No.
Ha
So-
ha! A clever ruse.
No, come on, guys. The Resurrection School in Lansing, Michigan first brought the lawsuit last fall while there was still a mandate in the state. As Catholics, we believe that we are all created in the image and likeness of God, as you said, Andy. Reverend Steve Mattson, Church of the Resurrection pastor, told Fox News in a statement, masks make it more difficult to interact with others since the facial expressions are hidden and those who are soft-spoken are difficult to hear and understand.
It's like you, babe.
No,
yeah, that's
but-
true. Sure,
Still not
that's
an
true.
excuse. It's still not an excuse, you know? Oh, masks also make us antisocial, is what they were saying. And they interfere with relations.
Relations. Whoa, hubba, hubba.
Well,
Can't kiss?
they should
Can't
approve
kiss?
of that then.
Yeah. That seems fine.
So
I
it
mean,
says...
I think
You go, Rob, sorry.
masks do the mask mandates did make a lot of people antisocial. It's just the people who
We had to stay
didn't
indoors.
want to wear the mask.
I mean, there is like a legitimate thing to say here for like literally just being able to understand people. Mm-hmm. There's
Sure.
a lot of the emergency worker stuff has been interesting because emergency workers are like, I want to wear the mask, but like when we go to old people, it's really sad because like they can't understand us. It is
Wow.
damn. Turns out everything has nuance. That sucks.
Damn.
Absolutely.
Not very convenient for our agenda that we're trying to push here.
We can still just unambiguously hate Ron DeSantis, right?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Oh,
sure.
God,
Definitely.
yeah.
But only as a parody. This does not
Right.
represent Florida State University or anyone else
No.
at the university.
Especially if
I
that
don't know if-
impedes
Any of
funding.
them think that he's a nasty little worm, nasty little pig-faced worm. Probably not. I don't even know if I think that.
What's next in nasty little pig face worm news?
Alrighty, my next news is Alabama city leader who used the N-word in council meeting says he won't apologize and might run for mayor.
Okay.
All right.
A white city leader captured on video using a racial slur towards black people during a council meeting said he won't apologize and might run for mayor. Others are calling for his resignation. So the Tarrant City Council member Tommy Bryant told news outlets his use of the word Monday night reflected something the city's black mayor Wayman Newton had said during an earlier private meeting. During a public session, Bryant used the slur to refer to a black female council member, Veronica Freeman. I fucking hate this man.
Wow.
Before the outburst, neighbors asked Bryant about controversial social media posts allegedly made by his wife about race.
Uh-oh.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah, well, he'll probably win the mayoral race, I'm guessing.
Okay, it's kind of weird that, like, we now live in a place where it's like, a white man said the N-word. This is a story that doesn't happen every day. Like, I guess it's just interesting that those kinds of headlines frame it as if it's not, like, something that a lot of white politicians are doing. Like,
right. We see it so
obviously
often.
bad, not shocking.
Yeah, I guess the story is that he said it knowing that he was, like, mic'd up, not that he
it
said
was a
it
brazen
privately.
thing.
Oh,
Well,
okay.
It was at a council
at a
meeting.
council meeting, and here's the dialogue is just like horrifying. I mean, like, after being questioned, Bryant stood up and can be heard saying the N-word again. Let's go to the N-word. Hey, do we have a house N-word in here? Do we?
Jesus.
Hey, would she please stand up? Like, oh my gosh.
Holy
this is
fuck.
like-
Well,
That's pretty brazen.
We don't like that guy.
No, this guy definitely says that every single day of his life.
oh yeah.
Jesus.
He said okay.
Yeah.
I mean, what? That's a wrap.
But
Yeah, but fuck that guy.
right. It just, when you think about it, it's like, what world are we creating when we're pushing back on, you know, talking about, I guess, America's, you know, sin, which was,
The original sin.
yeah, whatever. But we've got we've got people saying this, and we've got young kids saying this too. Like,
Oh yeah.
I mean, I've been called a slur before, and it's horrifying. I just can't imagine
still have
this being
issues.
said. Like, it
We
just
still
disgusts
have
me.
a lot of issues that I think it's really funny and sad when people are like, "Oh, what? That's all over. We had a black president." Blah 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 blah. blah.
History was a thing that happened, and since
We're
it
past
happened,
it
it's
now.
no longer happening.
Well, and
Yeah.
it's interesting that, like, I'm going to say that white people tend to need racism to escalate to the point of that sort of overt violence before it is sufficiently identified as violent racism. Like, a way lower grade than what y'all are describing would still have been hostile and violent and created danger to the city councilwoman he was
absolutely.
attacking. But it has to get to that level of hostility and violence for us to become aware of it because of the prevalence of violent racism.
That's why this whole racket about like free speech, and they keep going on about free speech and stuff like that. It's like, you know, they don't believe that words can be violent, or they don't see saying something like that as an act of racism. Like he would snap back and say, "Oh well, you know, I just said a word. I'm not treating them any differently," or something like that. Like that's somehow become like I guess some people's definition of like racism. Is like, well, I didn't you know, do this violent thing to them. It's like, well,
Well, do you think that he actually doesn't think he's a racist, or do you think that he just knows he can't say publicly, yes, indeed, I am a racist? Because I always wonder how much of this is like, oh, I didn't do racism, and how much of it is like, I know I can't tell you this, but like, I do in fact think that.
yeah, he said the quiet part loudly. No, that's a good question for a lot of people, especially like right-wing grifters and like people like Steven Crowder, for instance, like is he actually racist, or is he just saying racist things that align with the people, the people he's trying to make money off of? I mean, there's so many examples of that.
Yeah, I think it just becomes a distinction without a difference at a certain point, because like
Sure.
either way,
Right.
It doesn't matter.
he's saying and doing racist shit all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
Cannot read his
fuck
mind.
that guy.
All that exists is his actions and his words. His being
Exactly.
any one of these fucking assholes. It's like I guess I don't really
It doesn't matter.
care that much if he
Yeah.
thinks he's a racist or not, because he is doing and saying racist things all the
Right.
time. And I don't think it's worth like
Giving
not
them any
worth it.
sort
It's
of-
just like
Giving him the time
like
of day.
he doesn't deserve the thought of like his feelings.
We just can't continue letting this like be a norm or be the norm.
Yeah.
And I do think that like, and this is just my opinion, is like, I think that people know that they're being like racist, and that they they inherently know that this is like.
They just feel like they can get away with it.
Well, yeah, because from my own personal experience with having like just like my family, like in Puerto Rico, there's a lot of people who are very racist towards Dominicans, and you'd be like, what? Why? Like,
yeah.
a lot of them come on boat to the island, and just to migrate over there, and it's terrifying conditions. Like, they have to go on boat, and people from Cuba too. And the amount of racism that I hear sometimes in Puerto Rico, and there's people that have been called horrific things for being just a brown person, and then to go and then shove it to to do that to someone else, like,
Yeah.
it's just, I
It's all
just think
over
that
the
they
place.
know what they're doing. It's
Yeah.
just another way of putting someone else down so that they can feel superior
doing
themselves.
doing it like kind of slyly, or at least like,
Something as simple as even like mannerisms. Like, what the hell does that even mean? Like, Puerto Rican mannerisms? Like, that doesn't make any sense.
right.
Like, that to me doesn't make any sense as someone who's born and raised there. Like, and then over there, a lot of people just let it slide. All these like little words that we say, or the ways that we talk about certain types of people, like, we just let it slide. Or in my family, I used to let it slide, and now I'm just like, we have to call this shit out from the get-go.
Yeah.
I think that's why I brought this article, just because like we see it so often, but we don't. It's seen as the norm now, which is like horrifying to me.
There's a lot of pushback to these libs out here.
I feel like we should ostracize these people, but I don't know. Maybe I'm being too harsh.
You mean
No, I
cancel
think
them?
they should. Yeah, I think they should be compromised to a permanent end.
Yes. Parody. Not
Parody,
actionable.
parody.
And I'm not sure how you would go about doing that. I don't really.
Yeah,
know.
whatever.
Yeah, no,
however
no,
you would
so-
interpret
Yeah.
that.
No.
Rob, you have a new segment for us, right?
Yeah, and this one I'll make it quick. This is a new segment we're trying out. Inaugural edition of The World of Tomorrow Today. Welcome to the world of tomorrow today. What's in your medicine cabinet right now, guys? I'm going to need dosages. I'm going to need... So this is a time-honored genre of article that's like just writing science fiction about what you think is going to happen in the future, and then calling it a news article.
Futurism.
So this is coming from Gizmodo, a part of their Home 2030 series, and this is called What You'll Find Inside Medicine Cabinets in 2030. I just want to read a few choice paragraphs from this, and then compare it with a similar article from 10 years ago about 2020. Let's see how they hold up. No doubt, medicine cabinets can be a busy, chaotic place, which only makes sense given the complexity of human health and the numerous methods used to treat diseases, injuries, and other health issues. That's great, right? Already getting that word count in there. As we gaze into the near future, however, it seems our medicine cabinets are in for a significant overhaul. No, they're not. Indeed, steady advances in medical technology are poised to revolutionize therapeutics and the way we take care of ourselves at home. We're always 10 years away from a revolution in whatever sort of technology.
Right.
I'm still waiting on those endless batteries that you never have to charge. By the 2030s, the drugs in our cabinets should be considerably more personalized than they are today. This development, says Olivier Elemento, God damn it, that's a cool name, a professor of physiology and biophysics at Weill Cornell Medicine, will be driven by dramatically reduced costs associated with genome sequencing and improved understanding of the interplay between medicines and genomes. As Elemento also pointed out, more treatment options will become available in the future as new drugs are already getting approved at an accelerating rate. I believe there will be new drugs in 10 years. I think that's pretty much been the case for, for forever, at least since penicillin. I would envision that everybody's medicine cabinet will be quite different from each other, he explained in an email. The types of medications prescribed, the combinations, and the dosages will be much more personalized than they are now. They'll be based on your genes. J. Ruben Morone Ramirez, and apologies if I mispronounced that, lead scientist of nanobiotechnology research at research group at Universidad
Autónoma de Nuevo León in Mexico.
Oh, God bless, thank you. Agreed that future medicines will be personally designed, saying this will be done to ensure the medicinal compatibility for each human being, he predicts. What's more, our future gene sequencing capacity will allow us to design therapeutics such as antimicrobials and antivirals against infectious pathogens. And this is kind of how this article's too long to read here. But basically, you're going to get some 3D printed drugs that are personalized for you. Everyone's going to have their own drugs. Everything's going to be very, very personalized to you. We're also going to have new Band-Aids. So it's worth pointing out that medicine cabinets don't just contain drugs.
Oh.
Mine does.
Band-Aids.
So what might a bandage look like in 15 years? If research from ETH Zurich and National University of Singapore pans out, we could see a bandage that helps blood to clot without sticking to the wound. So the world of tomorrow is all World's Fair shit. But, that sounds pretty plausible. Let's see what was being said about 2020.
Wait, how am I gonna raid my family and friends' medicine cabinet?
We're gonna finally defeat teen prescription drug abuse. And I just one last thing here. Elemento expects to see fewer pills in our future. We will increasingly move towards 3D printed pills, he said, in which a single pill can include many drugs. In a development he says will likely increase medication adherence. What's more, Elemento hopes to see the medicine cabinet, so to speak, expanded to include health strategies that aren't dependent on drugs. It's like no effort is made to contend with the vast disparities in
wealth.
It's like, yeah, fucking Peter Thiel might have a teen blood tap that he can drink out of in his medicine cabinet to stay young and fit, but you will not have that. So, just for some context, this is August 15th, 2012, in Forbes. The year 2020, the doctor will not see you now. It's the year 2020. 2020, just like perfect vision. And interestingly, it's also your vision. In today's world of health and wellness, computer-guided laser vision correction is so commonplace that eyeglasses are hardly necessary and almost pure fashion. I want to point out, this guy is writing for 8 years in the future. And he's like, glasses are going to be gone in less than a decade. Except for the occasional Google glasses that early innovators still wear as a badge of adoption.
Holy shit.
Boy, they are everywhere now, those Google glasses. Today is the first time you've been to a doctor's office in 2 years. Yet surprisingly, you're as compliant and up-to-date as can be. Over the past 2 years, you've had several interactions with your doctor, including an ECG, simplified physical exam, and evaluation of a sore throat. However, these evaluations were done from your home with one of the most essential components of care for both you and your physician, the smartphone. As you arrive, one of the first things you notice is that the waiting room is almost empty. Whoops, fucked that one up.
No.
Advances in digital appointments and offsite care have changed the practice dynamic significantly. In fact, your family physician sees more patients virtually than in the real world. The digital receptionist acknowledges you by first name as you approach this holographic image.
Whoa.
Wow, holographic.
Again, he is writing for 8 years in the future.
Yeah.
Face recognition has instantly identified you, and a thermal scan has checked your body temperature to screen for the potential of any infectious conditions that would immediately shuttle you off to an isolation area.
Wow, he's really
So
optimistic.
I love this because that's exactly right, but it's written in like a utopian voice of like how fucking cool it's going to be. It's like, yeah, we are all doing like telehealth and shit, but it fucking sucks because you're using a phone and your phone cannot take your blood pressure or your blood sugar or whatever. I mean, I guess there are attachments, but like most people don't have that. Yeah, but those are still being used. Like those devices are by and large still being used in like doctors' office. They're plugging a pressure cuff into an iPad. You don't own an iPad.
If you are rich and have a chronic health condition, then you might have this.
Exactly.
Otherwise, definitely not.
Exactly.
Yes, that's
if
what
you're
I'm-
perhaps a Forbes writer, maybe this is how you enter. Maybe you're going to the holographic doctor. You're going to the holographic doctor who's greeting you by your first name and giving you your vial of Peter Thiel's feel-good juice. But if you're anybody else, you're doing a shitty telehealth appointment that your doctor's like barely paying attention to, and your connection is cutting out because they couldn't be bothered to upgrade their network in their office to account for all of the telehealth that they're doing. So examining the exam. Let's take a closer look at what just happened in the future. It took 17 minutes from start to finish. It's effective and efficient. The analytical and diagnostic acumen of technology is, in many respects, superior to the physical skill set of your doctor. The data used for diagnosis and therapeutic recommendations are always current and reflect the best and brightest thinking in medicine. The depth and breadth of the database used for predictive information is massive. No individual physician can ever have the experience, intuition, or processing power to come close. The human touch is still there. It's just reserved for more specific and valuable use.
Valuable.
Wow.
And so,
It's
and
funny.
wouldn't you know it, John Nosta is the founder of Nosta Lab, a leading digital health think tank providing business and marketing insights to help the life science industry navigate the complex aspects of innovation in the context of exponential change.
He paid.
So it's
he
a press
paid
release
them
for his
to-
company. Yeah, he paid to get that in there. Yep.
That's I've worked in ad agencies before, and first of all, they all fucking suck. But yeah, this is something that we did with companies, as basically get them articles or have them write an article about a subject which they happen to offer their services for.
Yeah,
And-
which is then just published entirely credulously by Forbes or whoever.
Yeah,
And you're like, wow,
yeah,
you
it's
sure
a
know
bunch
a
of
lot about
bullshit.
this. That's great.
It reminds me of. Do you guys remember Theranos?
Theranos?
Oh yeah,
Theranos.
yeah.
Yeah.
It just reminds me of like when it was coming out and they were like writing articles about it, and they were like, one prick will change your life. You know, it's like, oh, we can do
Just
hundreds
totally
of tests.
fucking bird brain shit. Like,
Yeah. It was
Did y'all
like
read about how like she faked the voice that she did so
Yeah,
that men
it's
would like,
yeah,
receive
I
her more
did actually.
credibly?
I did actually
There's a
read
lot
about
to
that.
unpack there.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
I remember reading. I don't do anything like that ever. So
I've never talked this slow in my entire life, but whatever. Just to sound more.
so that was the world of tomorrow today. Olivia, Andy, do you have any? Well, wait, shit! You didn't tell me what's in your medicine cabinet. And again, doses. Andy, you weren't here. We all said what was in our medicine cabinets. Doses, sort of like prescription dates.
Why did we do
referring
that?
doctor? just because it's like funny or something. I don't know.
I have a lot of different kinds of dried herbs.
Ooh.
Yeah, so I read a whole bunch of studies about the herbal benefits of different things, and none of them are very effective, but a few of them are like 5% effective on some chronic health issues I have. So I have like some normal stuff in my cabinets, but a lot of herbs. I also have a lot of plants that I grow that are edible, and
and have you considered if instead of all those herbs you could have perhaps some 3D printed herbs that were linked to your genome? Maybe they're holographic.
shiny.
Wow,
herbs.
I hadn't considered that. That
Well, it
that
is
sounds
2020.
like it's some euphemism for LSD or something.
Yeah, no, it's the medicine
Which
of the
there's
future
none of
today.
in my cabinet.
Have you tried microdosing your herbs? And
No.
You don't have to answer
I
that.
know
don't
you
have to answer
actually
that.
don't want to hear about all of the research I've performed on different kinds of herbs. Well, okay, I say performed like I actually like did shit. I just like locked myself in a room and read medical journal articles for months.
sure, as we do.
Like a normal person.
Yeah.
Like Arrowhead.
I'm a very stable genius.
Olivia, do you have any are you excited for the world of tomorrow today?
So I will say, there.
Uh-oh.
Don't sigh when I do. Don't sigh when I say that. When it comes to the article about 2030, I think that there is more truth in it than we would like to believe, because we're at a point in terms of the medicine available where we need more money, meaning we as in companies need more money. And there's only so much money that they can get by offering baseline products to
True.
everyone. And so you can up the price significantly to a lot of rich people by tailoring their medications to them. And like, a bunch of rich old dudes would rather only take one than 30 every day. And so I wouldn't be surprised if that for specifically rich old people came about in the next 10, 15 years, only because it's a cash cow. Like I would do that if I was trying to get money out of people. But there have already been I got ads for this. The vitamin gummy that's 3D printed specifically for what you have a deficit of exists now, and it's popular.
The world of tomorrow today.
The world of tomorrow today.
Wow.
And so
I didn't know
there's
that.
a lot of truth to this. Yeah.
There's actually a lot of like cool medical stuff that's available online, super personalized. So like one thing that's always been really difficult to access is hormone replacement therapy for trans people. It's super expensive to do in a lot of situations, and most places or most insurances don't cover hormones. So there have been these places that like are frankly charging way too much, but they're using like very nice packaging, like sending everything that's necessary, and there might be like other equipment that's necessary, and they're overcharging, but they're doing this because they're also providing services to a lot of people who could never pay. So like I think there are some environments where there are these highly tailored health regimens that are available, and you know that you're paying more than you would be if you went through insurance, but like personally, if I can go through that service, I would way rather do that.
Right.
Because then I know that like I know who my money is going to, I know who it's going to help. So yeah, I can see just like these highly tailored health things being a good marketing ploy.
Yeah. Well, even that is like I think the thing that bothers me about these so much is like that utopian voice, right? Because even that is like a symptom. Like, yeah, it's good if there are ways around the shitty system, but that's like what would be better would be if you didn't have to overpay for this, and if I don't know, maybe the government would give you the medicine that you need.
Right, like what would be better is if I could go to the store and pay a market rate for the medication I've taken for the last 4.5 years that I need no assistance from doctors with.
Well, also like as there's kind of more of a push to let people manufacture generic versions of drugs. You know how you, like you were saying, Olivia, you know how you could still get your money as a pharmaceutical executive. You can't get a generic version of a drug if it's 3D printed for you specifically, so you can still get that fucking premium rate on whatever 3D printed super drug you need to take.
Want to know another fun fact about how free market capitalism fucks up health?
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh, this is going to be very upsetting for everyone. Okay, so like think birth control, think like other androgens for like older cis men, think any kind of hormone replacement therapy. None of it is bioidentical to the testosterone and estrogen that the human body produces. We can do that just fine. You can actually go to a pharmaceutical compounder and have them generate bioidentical whatever hormone. And like this applies to like other hormones that people's bodies might not produce for other reasons too. But anything that we're producing, it cannot be bioidentical to that found in nature because that can't be patented. So for like testosterone, for example, there's like there's one little thing in it that's different from that's produced by the human body, because if that weren't the case, the pharmaceutical company couldn't generate enough profits to continue having it.
Holy shit.
Right. So there are all of these kinds of issues.
That is upsetting.
Oh, it's super upsetting, but like this is a big thing in medicine, and I'm sure there's other stuff it applies to. Like it probably applies to SSRIs on some level.
Right.
But like you can't patent something that is identical
Exists
to
in the
right.
body.
So like a big problem with capitalistic medical structures is that you literally cannot allow people to access the molecular structure that would work best.
Damn. Mike.
Wow, man, I was really skeptical that you were going to say something about capitalism fucking up medicine that I hadn't heard before that was upsetting, but nope, that's a new one for me.
Yeah,
so.
oh my gosh.
Again, we gotta put
Thanks,
this
Andy.
on a paywall or something. This is too much good knowledge.
No, the people have to know. The people have to know.
True. I gotta be a good comrade, good ally.
I think this would probably be our best episode, I would say. Write in, listener.
Right in, yeah.
At Please Clap Show on Twitter.
And
we have an
Gmail.
email address, but I don't. Is it?
Please clap show. Yeah.
At gmail.com.
Yeah. Ooh, yeah.
No, it's
Hotmail, maybe. I don't know.
Guys,
Yeah.
come on. Come on, guys.
freedommail.us, baby.
Yeah.
Freedommail at oan.org.
Yeah. To FBI at fbi.gov, our parent company.
Well, honestly, all of our episodes are our best episode every time. They just keep getting better, and we're gonna keep doing this every week. And I hope you join us. This has been a lot of fun.
Yes.
Andy, Olivia, thank you for joining us.
Yes, thank you so much for that information.
Thank you for having
even
us.
if it blew my mind.
Yeah, it was
Thanks
upsetting.
for listening to me talk.
It was
course.
awesome. Really awesome.
Were you
Rob?
thinking Chan, or were you thinking thanking the listener?
Oh,
Because I mean, I think it could be both.
Both.
Perfect.
it's too much to
God
think of
bless you,
people
listener.
intentionally choosing to listen to me speak. I can't think about this question.
And I mean, we do get like about 15K downloads on each one, so it's a lot of. It's definitely not like about 8 people downloading these.
Oh,
it's,
actually?
no, it's like 8 people.
Oh,
and
great.
God bless each and every one of you.
Well,
God bless you.
Our
I mean
stats are going up.
We're going up.
Are at least on our podcast stats, we have at least like 12 people, but I guess a few of those are us. So
True.
I mean, last week we had 6. This week we have 12. Next week 24, 48, 96. Pretty soon,
a billion.
we got like 30 billion listeners. Hell yeah.
Yeah. But either way,
Count all the microbes that are in your listeners'
Yeah.
ears,
That's right,
Then you
that's
can
right.
get
All the-
really high.
All the pets that happen to hear it, any vermin lurking in the walls of your home. Those are all our listeners, and we love you all very much.
I have no idea how many of those downloads are just like data hoarding scripts scrolling the internet. But thank you for our listener in Ontario. God bless.
If you're
Thank you.
if you're a robot, good on you.
Good job. You found the right RSS feed. Yeah, that's it for Please Clap. Nico, thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me, Chan.
Oh, you're welcome. Anytime. Yeah, bye-bye.
Bye bye. All right, should I start recording now?
He does this every
Isn't that
episode.
every
It's his
time it
favorite
just gets
gag.
funnier?
There are known knowns. There are things we know we know. We also know there are known unknowns. But there are also unknown unknowns. The ones we don't know, we don't know.
Finally, the decks were cleared for a real military response, not some piece of garbage.
And what is Aleppo?
Excuse me, but is this an unknown unknown?
I'm not going to say which it is.
Please clap.
We don't have a major enemy. I know it hurts your feelings. I know you're upset about it. Who are you worried about? Iraq?
We have finally gotten more police officers on the street.
Got to shape up.
Is it working?
A 2-year-old cult member was also shot and killed.
Corn Pop wasn't bad, too.
They are not just gangs of kids anymore. They are often the kinds of kids that are called super predators.
And he ran a bunch of bad boys.
Whatever the fuck you want.
Who are you worried about? Ronald Reagan.
George H.W. Bush.
William Jefferson Clinton.
George W. Bush. Barack Obama.
Jeb Bush.
Newt Gingrich.
Please clap.